ating next topics na signals indicating coherence or also known as transition signals. So what is a coherence? Coherence is a very important in a sentence, paragraph, or text. It helps the author in establishing connection between and among concepts presented. It can only be established with the help of various transition signals that signify different meanings. These signals are used depending on the meaning or context portrayed. A change in transition may signal result to incomprehensible. So, itong coherence or transitional words, mga anak, ito yung mga words na ginagamit natin para mapagdugtong ang dalawang ideya, para mas mapalawak pa ang kaideyahan or thoughts ng isang sentence. So, what are the four basic classification of transition signals? So, nahati ang transition signals sa apat. So, ano yung apat na yon? So, unahin na natin ang additive transitions. So, what is additive transitions? Additive transitions are used to add a similar idea, introduce an additional idea, introduce an example or illustration, introduce a restatement or explanation, or draw to close or summarize. So, itong additive transitions, sa ating mga next slide, maiintindihan natin ng additive transitions. These are two ideas that being combined. Okay? Pareho silang positive idea plus positive idea, or it can be negative idea plus negative idea. So that is additive transitions. So I will explain you later what are the examples and what are the types of additive transitions. The second one is adversative transitions. So adversative transitions are used to introduce an opposition to an idea, contrast, or emphasize or clarify a point. So adversative transitions, so it will introduce an opposition to a given idea. For example, sa isang sentence, yung unang part ng sentence is a positive, and then ang kasunod na part is yung negative part. So, ito yung example ng adversative transition wherein makukuha or ma-explain mo dito sa adversative transition yung idea na kung saan makaka-explain ka na ang formula ng adversative transition is positive plus negative. So, that is adversative transition. The next one is causal transition. So, what is a causal transition? Causal transition indicate a consequence or result. So, sa isang sentence, ito naman yung sentence na kung saan makaka-experience ka or makaka-encounter ka na ito yung cause at ito yung effect. So, ang gagamitin mo doon para mapagdugtong mo yung dalawang idea sa isang sentence ay causal transitions. Number 4 is sequential transitions. Okay? Sequential transitions indicate the sequence of ideas, events, or actions. Napakasimple ng sequential transitions. Ito yung pagkakasunod-sunod lang ng idea sa isang sentence. So, yung sequence, at least, for example, sa isang sentence, meron kang tatlong idea na kailangan mong pagdugsong-dugsongin. So, kailangan mo ng sequential transition. Okay, I will give you a table to explain further what is a sequential, additive, and adversative. So, I will exit for this. And let us proceed for classification. So, if you can see on our explanation board, we have the classification, and that is additive. So, what is the function of additive transition? So, ang function niya is to add a similar idea. So, ano yung mga words na pwede mong gamitin para magamit mo or para ma-classify mo na itong sentence na ito ay gumagamit ng classification na under siya ng additive. So, these are the transition signals comparatively, coupled with, correspondingly, identically, likewise, similar to, together with, equally. Okay? Ito yung mga transition signals para sa additive. For example sentence, we should all be careful with the coronavirus disease that makes our respiratory system weak. Likewise, the HIV/AIDS that makes our immune system frail. So, this is to add or similar idea. So, ano yung similar idea dito sa sentence na ito? So, ang similar idea dito sa sentence na ito is that we are going to we have to add similar idea of HIV and coronavirus because they are both virus. So that is an example of additive or to add a similar idea. So ang ginamit nating word is likewise. So the second one for additive is to introduce additional idea. Kung kanina nag-introduce tayo ng similar idea, that is coronavirus and HIV. So dito naman, under pa rin siya ng additive transition is introduce an additional idea. So ano yung mga words na ginagamit para sa makapag-introduce tayo ng additional idea? It can be also, furthermore, additionally, in addition, moreover, similarly, likewise, as well as, besides, another, to. Ito yung mga words na ginagamit natin sa isang sentence na kung saan makakapag-addition siya ng isang idea sa naunang idea. For example, the government reminds the people on the existing policies on community quarantine. Also, it advises them to always observe appropriate health protocols. Okay. Introduce an additional idea. So, ano yung unang idea dito sa ating sentence? So, ang idea dito sa ating sentence ay yung the government reminds the people on the existing policies. Okay, existing policies on community quarantine. So, Tagalog, also, dagdag pa riyan, it advised them to always observe appropriate health protocols. So, kailangan madagdagan yung health protocols at the same time ay yung community quarantine policy. So, ito yun naman yung to introduce an additional idea. So, the third one. Okay, dito tayo sa ikatlo. To introduce an example or illustration. Okay, kung kanina nakapag-introduce tayo ng additional idea, dito naman, may idea tayo and at the same time, may example tayo nung idea na yun. So, bibigyan mo ng example. For example, such as, for instance, to demonstrate, namely, in particular, specifically. So, these are the words used for introducing an example or illustration. For example, sentence, there are various health protocols that the government mandates social or physical distancing. For example, must be strictly observed especially in public places. Okay. Ang idea dito sa sentence na ito, mga anak, is yung pagmamandate or pagbibigay ng mandato para sa social or physical distancing. Ginawang halimbawa ng sentence na ito para ma-maintain or para gawin pang mas maliwanag kung ano ba itong physical or social distancing is by giving example. For example, must be strictly observed especially in public places. So, striktong ipinapatupad ang social distancing. Another one is for additives. In additives transition signal is through introduce or reinstatement or explanation para magbigay ng explanation sa isang sentence. For example, this is, in fact, indeed, namely, specifically, thus. So, we did not enjoy our vacation in Hong Kong. In fact, heavy rains pursued the city for almost 3 days. So, to introduce a reinstatement or explanation. So, Tagalogin natin yung sentence. Hindi namin na-enjoy ang aming bakasyon sa Hong Kong. Dahil nga, or sa kadahilanan, ng matinding pag-ulan na umulan sa buong syudad sa loob ng 3 araw. Okay? So, ito yung additives na kung saan ikaw naman ay nag-e-explain or nag-re-statement. Bakit hindi mo na-enjoy ang iyong vacation sa Hong Kong? Because, or in fact, heavy rains poured in the city for almost 3 days. Okay. Next one is to draw or to close a summarize. To draw, to close, or a summarize. So, ito naman yung pagbibigay natin ng explanation kung saan isinasummarize natin, pinapaikli natin ang madaming idea into one simple sentence or to one compound sentence. Okay, for example, to conclude, as a final point, in brief, in conclusion, indeed, in short, in summary, finally, lastly. So, for example ng sentence is, many companies were forced to shut down. The unemployment rate increased for the past 4 months. A number of OFW have been repatriated. In conclusion, the country is experiencing great economic loss due to COVID-19 pandemic. So, mapapansin natin sa paggamit natin ng additives na to summarize or to close a given idea, meron siyang mga causes. Many companies were forced to shut down. O, bakit mag-shutdown or ano kaya magiging epekto ng shutdown? The unemployment rate increased for the past 4 months. A number of OFW have been repatriated. Okay, dahil dito sa mga pangyayaring ito, ano kaya ang magiging conclusion natin? Ano ang maiisip natin? Ano ang mangyayari? So, in conclusion, the country is experiencing the great economic losses due to COVID-19 pandemic. Okay? So, that is to draw or to summarize. Ito yung ating mga words na ginagamit sa pag-draw or pag-summarize under pa rin siya ng additives transition. Next one. So, nandito na tayo sa adversative. Okay? So, ano naman yung adversative? So, ang function ng adversative mula sa dun sa word na adverse is to introduce an opposite idea or contrast. So, magkabaligtara naman. So, ang formula dito is positive plus negative or negative plus positive. So, transition signals na ginagamit natin sa adversative is in contrast, conversely, alternatively, yet, although, even though, nevertheless, notwithstanding, however, on the other hand, whereas, while, instead, and otherwise. Okay, ito yung mga words na nagpapakita na ito ay isang adversative or adversative sentence na gumagamit ng adversative transitions. Example is, even though the country is experiencing great economic loss due to this pandemic, it has continued helping other countries by sending our medical frontliners and other essential materials. Okay. So, dito sa ating sentence, nauna yung word na even though sa ating idea. Even though the country is experiencing great economic loss due to this pandemic, okay, may comma doon, it has continued helping other countries by sending our medical frontliners and other essential materials. So, kahit na nahihirapan tayo sa ating economic losses ng ating bansa, patuloy pa rin ang pagpapadala natin ng medical frontliners at essential materials sa ibang bansa. So, ang ginagamit nating words is even though. So, ang transition signals na even though ay under ng adversative. So, yun ang malalaman natin. Under pa rin ng adversative is to emphasize, to clarify a point. Okay. Kanina nakita natin yung even though. Okay? Kahit na, sa Tagalog, kahit na nahihirapan ka. So, dito naman sa to emphasize, clarify a point. So, ito naman yung even more, above all, indeed, more importantly, and besides. Okay? Despite our limited resources due to this pandemic, Glenda still managed to distribute relief goods to some of our neighbors. Indeed, she is a helpful and wonderful person. Okay, kahit na daw limitado ang kanyang resources, itong si Glenda ay nagdi-distribute pa rin ng relief goods. Dahil dyan, or indeed, talaga naman, o sa Tagalog, talaga namang siya ay matulungin at maayos na wonderful person. When we say wonderful person, maayos na ang kanyang pagkakatao or may mabuti siyang kalooban. So, that is to emphasize or to clarify a given point. So, ang pinapatungkulan natin dito ay si Glenda. Kahit na siya hirap na hirap, tumutulong pa rin siya. So, that is indeed to clarify or to emphasize a given point. That is, okay, the third one is causal. Okay? To indicate a consequence or result. Consequently, accordingly, as a result. Hence, subsequently, therefore, thus, thereupon, as a consequence, for this reason, wherefore. Okay. The students reviewed their lessons well before their exam. As a result, they passed the school assessment process. So, ito naman yung mga words na nag-i-indicate ng mga resulta. Ito yung mga words na yan. And then, ito yung explanation ko. The students reviewed their lesson well before their exam. Nakapag-review ng maayos ang mga estudyante. As a result, dahil dyan, ang resulta ay they passed the school's assessment process. And that is under the transition of causal or causal. The last one is sequential or sequence. To sequence your idea. Okay? Firstly, secondly, thirdly, next, then, after, this, lastly, finally, accordingly, meanwhile, henceforth. Okay? Ito naman yung mga words na nagpapakita kung saan yung pagkakasunod-sunod ng idea. Sequence nga, di ba? So, for example, my mother cooked our favorite breakfast. After eating, she washed the dishes and the other utensils. Then, she swept the floor and cleaned the whole house. So, in this type of example, gumamit tayo ng dalawang sequential transition signals, and that is after and then. So, my mother cooked our favorite breakfast. After eating, she washed the dishes and other utensils. Then, she swept the floor and cleaned the whole house. So, all in all, class, nahahati ang transition signals sa apat. And that is, the first one is additive. The second one is adversative. The third one is causal. And the fourth one is sequential. So, I hope kung meron kayong tanong, mag-comment lang kayo sa baba, and I'm willing to answer all your comments, answer all your queries on your comment section. And thank you. I hope you subscribe to my channel. And I hope kahit papano ay nakatulong ako sa inyo. Kung meron pong katanungan, mag-comment lang po sa baba, and I will give more examples and I will give more solution to your problem, especially in our lesson. Thank you so much mga anak. And this will be the end of our lesson.